You're watching Satluj TV News. I'm Angus Scott in London. The ongoing diplomatic war between Canada and India has taken a new turn as India fights to control the narrative over the recent murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau last month revealed intelligence services had uncovered evidence that the Indian government was behind the murder of the Khalistani campaigner on Canadian soil. The revelation ignited Western nations in horror, but also caused extreme embarrassment to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is currently trying to sell his nation on the world stage as a modern democracy. Having been caught red-handed in the murder of a political opponent on foreign soil, the Indian government has been working overtime to twist and turn the narrative to deflect blame away from Modi's government and the Indian Secret Services. And in the latest bizarre twist, the Economic Times of India has reported that Indian government sources are now claiming that Canada was complicit in the downing of Air India Flight 182 in 1985, which killed 329 people. AI 182 has been a deeply controversial subject for decades, a tragedy for which no satisfactory answer has yet been uncovered. Although the tragedy was blamed at the time on Sikh separatists, particularly by India, and indeed only one person was briefly jailed for the act, it has remained a terrorist act generating more questions than answers. But in recent years, after an in-depth investigation, two Canadian journalists had uncovered extensive evidence pointing to the fact that the Indian government itself had been behind the bombing. But why would India be behind such a terrible act? Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Sikhs in the Punjab had been fighting years of oppression by the Indian government, which had culminated in the terrible Sikh genocide of 1984, which saw tens of thousands of Sikh men, women and children massacred by rampaging Hindu mobs. Sikh separatists had become a major threat to the Indian government, and after an enormous propaganda drive to alienate Sikhs across the world, the Indian government were desperate to paint Sikh campaigners as terrorists, in fact a tactic still being used today. And so, after the journalist's investigation, reams of evidence revealed that the atrocity had in fact been a deliberate, covert act by India to then lay blame on Sikh separatists. Of course, with the current revelations over Hardeep Singh Nijjar, these same accusations against India over Flight 182 are now publicly surfacing once again, much to the embarrassment of India. But adopting the maxim of attack being the best form of defence, in an astonishing twist, the Indian government have now claimed that Canada were instead complicit in the downing of the plane, an audacious attempt to deflect the inevitable and uncomfortable questions now being levelled at the Indian government over its own guilt. Whatever the truth of the matter, the war of words has fast become a dirty melee of claim and counterclaim between Canada and India. But with this latest attack launched by the Indian media against Canada, its only achievement has been to further damage the Indian government's credibility and reputation amongst leading nations. You've been watching Satluj TV News. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button to make sure you get to see stories as they're broadcast. And of course, if you have any comments or opinions on any of our news stories, you can comment below. Or indeed, why not drop us a direct message at message@satlujtv.com. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime, thanks for watching for Satluj TV News. I'm Angus Scott in London.